every laugh, every smile, every hug, every kiss, every touch, every person in my life that I care about and love. But wait, maybe I'm getting too emotional. That's exactly what they say you ain't supposed to do. Suppress your feelings, never talk about your pain. Can't appreciate the sun without acknowledging it rains, right? That's right. So this a moment of clarity. And make sure you always protect your energy. You stay focused and your life gon' be lit. And you are now rocking with Celeste, the therapist. Let's go.
Hi. Hi, beautiful people. If you are watching me on the replay, thank you so much for watching me. I appreciate you. If this is your first time in my live broadcast, my name is Celeste. I am a therapist from Boston, and I come on, I talk to people that are doing things to empower other people by sharing their story. And if you don't know the power of community and the power of realizing that you are not alone. Oh no, did I just freeze? I think I just froze. Oh, okay. The power in community, the power in knowing that you're not alone. There's a lot of power in that we don't realize. And the moment that we realize it, I feel like a lot of healing starts to take place. Hey, Missy. Hey, Romello. You want to speak on how people of color. So I actually have a guest on today. I did speak about this yesterday. I did speak about this. I'm never gonna like stop speaking about it. You know, it's always in my heart and my mind. So like that's always gonna be something that will come up. But I did have a kind of lengthy conversation yesterday with my guest about the trauma of that. So actually starting next Wednesday, every Wednesday, I'll just come on by myself to answer questions about mental health, to talk about mental health. So that's going to start June. It'll just be me. And this is something, if you're new to me, that I used to do every Friday a few years ago, where I would just kind of answer questions about mental health. So it turned out to be really good. So one thing that's happening next Friday, and I have a ton of sponsors, the 100K Toast is happening, and we will be celebrating me having over 100,000 at this point downloads. So that is going to be something that is a free event. If you go to my website, there's a link to it, or if you just go to Eventbrite and type in the 100K, all you need is a Zoom link to get in and enjoy the party. There will be games, there will be music, there will be giveaways. So that's really exciting. So I am going to bring on my special guest who watches the show a lot. I'm excited to have her on, and she's going to come on to share her story. Hello, Miss Jessica. Can you introduce yourself to my audience?
Hi, everybody. I'm Jessica Whitfield. I am the owner and CEO of JLW Medical Management Consulting.
Thank you for being here. I'm excited to have you. Now, you said JLW Consulting. What is it that you actually do?
So we are a practice management, medical billing, and provider credentialing practice. We help physicians basically collect reimbursements from insurance companies for servicing patients. We also help educate patients on their insurance plans and provide services to help them plan out their healthcare expenses throughout the year.
Oh, okay. That's pretty good. How is it that you, I guess, go from working for somebody else to having your own like management company? Like that's pretty impressive. And you know, I'm in private practice, so I know all the hard work you do because I hate dealing with insurance. I hate calling them, and so like you kind of your management team or company picks up that slack.
Yes. So a couple reasons why I went into it. Working as a contractor for up to 10 years, I went into a lot of different practices that you saw not only just inefficient workflows, but you also saw patients who were frustrated or uninformed or didn't know that they had, co-payments, deductibles, and co-insurance. And so not only did you see outstanding accounts receivables going into the millions, depending on the practice or the hospital or the medical device company, but also patients were falling into debt. And so in healthcare in general, and I learned this, well, I knew this beforehand, but I learned it even more as it's becoming a crisis, that in healthcare, doctors are frustrated because they're saying in medical school, they learn the clinicals. They're not taught the administrative stuff, right? So when they're getting into practice, there's certain things and certain aspects they don't know unless they go to business school or they pick up a certification or they learned it before they went to medical school. And so they don't think of the whole person care in itself. So if you have a patient who's struggling with mental health from the administrative side, or even financial burdens or social economic reasons, you're not going to know that they're coming into your office frustrated, angry, and all these other things because they have a $4,000 deductible that they can't pay. And they're yelling at your administration team, and your administration team is getting frustrated. And now you have a high turnover. And really and truly, this patient just doesn't understand what's going on. So communicating that to the team and finding ways to kind of curb those incidents is what our firm does. And we kind of educate the staff, we educate the patients, and we kind of try to help mitigate incidents from not only escalating, but kind of getting ahead of it early on.
No, I think that's good, and obviously needed. Believe me, I understand the back end 100%. One of the things that I know you kind of wanted to delve into a little bit is purpose. And I can tell just from what you're doing, part of your purpose has to do with helping people, right? Because there's different ways you help people, and you're literally helping people kind of have an understanding, decrease their stress, like make things more functional. How is it that you were able to figure out your purpose?
Well, it kind of goes back a little further than this. So when I first went off to college, I had suffered from depression. And so this amazing songstress by the name of Marshall E. Kellum told me very early before I went to college, she said, "Your Bible will be your best friend." And when you're a freshman, you're just like, okay. and she kind of pulled me back in and she said, "No, your Bible will be your best friend and your only friend." And so I kind of leaned into that because I'm like, what is she really trying to tell me right now? So I said, okay, and kind of, waved it off. But not to dismiss her, but just kind of like, okay, thank you. And little did I know that comment actually saved my life.
Were you struggling at the time when she said that to you? Okay.
Well, no, not at that specific time. I had actually changed medications, and I started on a 1-dose medication that caused me to start having depression. And yes, and I sought the school counselor for help, and she disregarded me. And so I remember curling up in my bed on the campus, crying, and I turned over to the side, and there was my Bible on the ledge. Okay. And now, for those who know me on a personal level, I regard myself now. People in the community also know me as this too, but I definitely know it as myself as Diva. Okay. I had this pink pillow in glitter letters that said Diva, and it was right next to my Bible. Now, why is that significant for me? My personality is to reach other people. Okay. That personality is tied to that nickname. So not only is it next to the Bible, but it's also telling me that God has a purpose for me. And so that also reached out to me at other periods of my life when I was going backwards, when I wasn't always making the right decisions. And that Bible always helped me to dive into it when I needed a word, when I needed to um, when I needed to be corrected. You know.
Well, the part about when you said the depression, that you was struggling with the depression, and then you said that you was crying, and were you trying to figure out what was going on with you? Because it wasn't like, did somebody diagnose you, or you just knew like something was going on?
I knew something was going on. I was never depressed at that point in my life. And so I remember I had to call my father to ask him to bring me back to my doctors back home because something was off. I was not normal. I was not going to classes at that time. I wasn't willing to get out of bed. And what was more significant about that night was after I had opened the Bible and read the text, I started praying like, God, let me know if I really do have a purpose, I need a sign. And sure enough, the same roommate who I had been having problems with that night had just walked in the door. And the first thing out of her mouth was, "Are you okay?"
Wow.
Okay. What is even more significant about that was her father and mother were both pastors and they were with her that night. And they had all just kind of came around and we just started praying. So I knew that I was supposed to get better. I knew that I was supposed to seek out my father. I knew that I was supposed to, figure out why I was going down a destructive path. And when I went back to my doctor, I found out that a portion of the side effects was depression. Again, something I had not experienced. So now that I experience it going forward, I'm on a different medication. I take it consistently, but it's still there, and I was embarrassed by it. And I ran into another individual who was suffering from it. And when that individual released what she was going through, I was able to help that individual come out of her situation with the help of other individuals who were also involved in that process. And that individual ended up getting baptized. So when you are able to tell your story, you're able to help reach other people. And why do I bring that up? In the midst of my depression coming back, I had been laid off, I want to say at least 5 times over the course of 3 years. And I was really frustrated. Like, okay, God, we've already had this conversation that you have a purpose for me, right? We've had this conversation that I've been going through some stuff and I just can't see it. I'm battling issues with my identity, I'm battling issues with anger. I've gotten to a point where I'm now starting to lose my way. And I got into this nasty car accident. Like, you would have thought that I lost my life. When the witness came forward to talk about what he saw, they told me that I had ping pong across the highway a couple times. It was a really bad rainstorm that I went one barrier back to the other, back to the other, and I walked away from that accident with scratches. Do y'all hear me? There was no internal bleeding. There were no broken bones. There was nothing. Scratches and a bruise. And I remember after the last layoff, I remember God said, if I can save you from a wreck, what makes you think that I can't produce your purpose? And so I remember something a physician once said to me. He said, you're about to go places. You have amazing skills. Have you ever thought about starting your own business? Now, this physician, he had just created a new medication. He had just bought his practice. And I was like, yo, you're dope. Like, and mind you, he was only 35. So I'm like, yo, I'm trying to be like you. That's goals right there. So I took what he said and I'm like, how can I apply my skills so that I'm opening my own business? Like, I'm tired of being laid off. I'm tired of going through this cycle. I wasn't made to struggle. God didn't put me on this earth to go through, but not to go through trials and tribulations, because we all have them. He didn't put me on this earth to constantly feel like I'm not worth it. So I applied that and I started my business. I took the skills that I already had and I said, you know what? Well, since other companies can't manage their stuff, I'm going to manage my own. And well, that was kind of rude. I'm sorry. I just wanted to help other people be in a better position to be able to give back, help people get jobs, and really go out and educate people. That was the number one goal in all of this. And then make money.
No, that's good. I love that. And when I think about how you got from, the place of pain to finding your way, can you tell people a little bit about the process? Because I think that we see you now and you have this company, this consulting company, but then you tell your story, like behind that smile, there's this like story. Can you tell people what that looks like trying to make these changes that you've never done before, and all of a sudden you're trying to maintain some form of consistency?
So it is literally an everyday practice. You know, I do make mistakes every day. It is, it's not easy, but I give myself daily forgiveness, daily compassion. And sometimes I don't always give myself compassion, but I have to talk to myself and I have to remind myself that it's okay to have a bad day, but don't stay there. You know, you made a mistake, you messed up, learn from it. You know, I kind of got upset with the financial aid office at my school the other day because they didn't honor what they said that they were going to do. And I found myself getting ready to go backwards. And in the moment, actually, I forgot that I didn't mute the call. And I was like, now, Jessica, you know that if you start to go down this cussing route, it's not going to be pretty. And the lady started laughing. And I was like, ooh, I'm so sorry. I forgot. She was like, you know what? I actually just applaud you because you actually tried to pull yourself back. So what I'm going to do for you is I'm actually going to try to see what we can do because you're right. We didn't do what we said we were going to do. And so I actually kind of had a aha moment like, oh, like you self-held accountability. I'm loving this right now. But I still didn't get what I wanted and I still got upset, but I was able to process it much better because she took accountability. We are in a world right now where we're seeing a lot of hurt and a lot of pain, and people are not, in some respect, are not taking accountability. One of the things that I pride myself on through this COVID was I did not allow myself to soak in all the negativity. I can't speak for men, but for women, we are incubators, right? What we pour into ourselves, we're going to produce out. So if you are pouring in negativity, if you're in that self-talk, negative self-talk, you're going to produce that out. And what I saw during COVID, I had to really take a deep look at myself and really assess, why am I in the same negative patterns? Why am I going back and forth in the same mess? Why am I really angry? Who am I really angry at? Am I angry at the world, or am I angry at myself for being ignorant? Am I angry at myself for not being informed? Am I angry at myself for making bad decisions? What choices did I make that led to certain decisions? Or what choices did other people make that I took on myself because I allowed them to project it on me? There was a lot of things that I really had to start evaluating to better understand, so that when I came out of COVID, I wasn't walking in the same person and walking out the same person. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes a lot of sense. I'm curious though, what was it about this pandemic that you think caused you to, or forced you to kind of like self-evaluate? It sounds like you're saying when COVID and this pandemic happened, you've done a lot more thinking about things. What do you think it was about this process?
I was forced to sit still. um I am a social butterfly. I love life, I love people. I don't think there was a time during non-COVID where I was home. I was involved in everything, and ministry, um school, work, day parties, the business. I was overly extending myself to a point. I was in chronic stress. Like, it was so bad that if you said one thing that was negative, you got this elaborate reaction. And people would be like, whoa. But then on the flip side, if you gave me a elaborate reaction, I'd look at you like you lost your mind. Like, why are you talking to me like that? So it was very one-sided. And so when COVID happened, I was like, wow, yeah, Jessica, you were way out of control. Like, when people would talk to me and try to give me that feedback, I would hear them, but I didn't know how to break the pattern. I couldn't see it. I'm like, okay, I hear what people are saying. I'm trying to break it, but what's the ultimate problem? Well, how do I break that? And so when I was forced to sit, I'm like, oh, it's because I don't have a whole lot of stuff on my plate. And even now, I've had to really kind of streamline. These are the days to do your schoolwork. These are the days to work on your business. And these are the days where it's all about you. There's no in between. There's no um you know, I kind of lost my train of thought. I saw a comment pop up. There's no, busyness. It's really just about making sure I have time for me, because I'm important. I don't want to be in the hospital at 30 with a heart attack because I'm overly stressed.
No, I think that's really good. And what I'm hearing from you is that being able to pause and reflect with a sound mind, with no distractions. So if somebody's listening to this and relate to Jessica's story, and you may not feel like you have had those aha moments, trying to be intentional about that stillness, and not picking anything else up on your plate. Because one thing that you said that is amazing is what we pour in, we put out, and it's going to manifest in some kind of way, right? So if I'm watching trauma all day on TV, the way that it presents itself it may look irritable, may look sad, may look anxious, may look depressed. And it sounds like you're rallying people to really sit and be still.
Yes, yes. Just really take the time to know yourself better, get to know a new version of you. And I promise you, you may fall in love with who you are becoming.
Mhm. I love that. Now, with all this personal growth taking place in your personal life since this happened, how has your business been affected?
Ooh, so a new website is coming. You know, I like I I was indirectly checked in a funny way. I had created my website myself. And when I started going through the process of getting feedback and learning more things, I realized, I was like, yeah, I really need to stay in my lane. This was not that what I did was just not for me. I recognize I am an operations person, a finance person. That was not my lane. And so I'm working with somebody to develop a new website. Um, I also am in the process of several partnerships, and I should have grabbed her name. I'm so sorry. Her last name is Miss Lindor. I am in the process of writing a book, y'all. A whole book. Yes. So the business is shifting from where I was in its infancy stage, year one. That was the startup stage. That was, get your licensing and take your trainings and meet with mentors. Now I'm really getting into the space where I'm starting to gravitate towards to getting to clients and developing partnerships and really getting my name and brand out there. And when you take where I was to where I'm going, you start to see the shift. And that shift really came from the way I started to shift my mind. If I had stayed in the place of self-doubt and I'm never going to grow, or, oh, this is always going to be my life, I don't think I would have started this business if I didn't have real conversations with the physician I used to work for, if I didn't take that leap of faith. And actually, that's the one thing I forgot to mention. When I contracted for him, when he first bought the practice, I had actually taken a leap of faith to ask him if I could change the process that was current. And I was afraid to do that. Because when you're a contractor, who are you to come into any place and tell them to change their process, or even the audacity to suggest that the process needs to be changed? Because in society, that's not common, right? So I saw the inefficiencies and everybody was stressed. He was taking on his patients, plus the patients of the other physician, plus the physician he had just hired. And with no offense to the doctor that had the practice prior, but he was very paper based. And I'm sorry, I don't do paper. I'm very electronic. That was driving me insane. It was a disadvantage to the patients. And in addition to that, we were working very, very late, and that was just very ineffective. So to kind of wrap it up, we changed everything to all electronic within under a month. And I'm telling you, we saw results within the first 2 weeks alone. We got him an answering service. We got him set up on all the payers electronically to be able to verify insurance, to be able to submit prior authorizations, everything that you need to do so that you can be able to answer the phones, you can be able to submit claims, everything, right? And patients were happier. We were getting more appointments scheduled. There is real results when you know the proper workflow that your practice needs. And when I was able, I actually kind of lost my train of thought, so I apologize. But basically,
No, you're fine. You're fine. I can tell you're back into that time where you had to switch it over. You're like, you see all these results happening because you stepped out on faith. But I was asking you about your business now. It sounds like it's still going. Like
it's
nothing
still
has
going.
Okay.
It still goes. See, y'all, she has to keep me on track because
It's okay.
I love this. The business is still going. And when I saw the results of how his practice took off, it allowed me, see, I remembered, it allowed me to be able to see the results of how I could take off if I had just applied myself and changed the way I thought.
Yes,
So.
I love that. Now, one of the
Uh-oh, you went in and out.
Oh, my bad. So one of the things, because I know that you watch the show, I want you to do before you leave is kind of give us some encouragement. There's people listening to this, there's so much you can take away from it, whether you're struggling emotionally or whether you are struggling in your business. All of the things that you are doing now is because of all the work you've done, the faith, the accountability, the consistency has really caused you to kind of rise up and walk in your purpose. Are there any kind of, if somebody's listening to this and feel like parts of your story they can relate to, anything you can give us to take away?
I think the best thing that I can say is, who are you surrounding yourself around? You keep going back to the fact that I listened to your show. There was a time that I was very, very lonely in the midst of being surrounded about a lot of people. And what people don't know is that I was amongst, different communities, but I had strong women like Celeste in on this show and in different community spaces, Jessica Pierre in Queen's Company, Pilar Tucker at Empower Our Crowns, Donita Jones down at Morningstar Baptist. I had different women in my community there for me. And if you don't have people in your community, I would strongly suggest reading different self-help books. There are so many out there that really spoke and resonated with my spirit. I went into Google and I typed in what I was feeling, and it drew a word. And what I mean by it drew a word, I mean that it would pull up different titles. And that's how I really started to draw myself out. You know, when you need a business title, if you don't know anything about finance, pop in what you're looking for. And YouTube and all these things. SCORE is a great resource. If you feel like you're done with your company, I'm not telling you to quit your job. There's a huge difference. What I'm telling you is if you have that niche, now is the time more than ever to go for it. The sky is the limit. The worst thing that somebody can say to you is no. And once I stopped fearing and started trusting, I I knew that everything would be okay. So you just gotta know and stay encouraged. Stay encouraged.
Yay, I love that. Stay encouraged. Check out your environment. And when I hear Jessica say environment, not even just the literal space and building you're in. I mean the things you're exposing yourself to. What are you doing intentionally? One thing I like to say all the time is if I'm physically hungry, I'm gonna go to the refrigerator and grab a bite. But when my spirit is empty and needs that like food, and if I really look and I say, well, what have I fed it, you know? And so we really have to take accountability because, you know, we have the internet at our fingertips. Yes, we may not have the same resources as other people have. And so I'm a big person on believing in using what you have. And that's something, and no is the worst thing you could say to me because I can't tell you how many times somebody has said no and how that just encouraged me to want to like keep going and push further because I know my purpose.
Yeah.
And I think my purpose allows me to really keep pushing forward because I know somebody needs this.
Yes, yes, yes.
That was good. Thank you. Thank you, Miss
You're
Jessica,
welcome. You're
for
welcome.
sharing your story on the podcast. You are amazing. If you're listening to this on the podcast, if you wanted to reach out, her information is going to be in the show notes. Was this okay? Would you ever come back?
Yes.
Just making sure. Thank you, my dear. I appreciate you.
Bye, everybody.
She's always smiling. So dope. Thank you guys for watching. If you just came in and you're new to this, my name is Celeste, and I have a podcast called Celeste the Therapist Podcast. And you can actually find it streaming on all podcasting platforms. If you were able to listen to the show, one of the things that Jessica talked about, or she talked about many different things, but she was able to work on the different areas in her life, right? And even though as she started to change, it's not like she hit the lottery or she won a house. Her mindset started changing. She started to create systems and plans to work on what she was struggling with. So one of the things I wanted to show you is this wellness wheel that I have on my website. You can actually, I go through all of these different parts of our lives and talk about the importance of really looking at the area we're struggling in. And like she said, if she had have just stayed struggling when she was struggling and didn't try to challenge it or process it, she wouldn't be where she is today with her own company. Somebody that goes from there to having their own company, to me is pretty amazing because it lets me know like there's hope for me, right? It lets me know that there's hope, because one thing about depression and pain, when you're struggling, it really feels like you're always going to be struggling. And being able to know that, oh, there's ways to get out of this, right? Regardless of me not having insurance for a therapist, right? There's ways for me to do that. And I like how she talked about practical things that she did. Like I went to Google and I typed in my symptoms, right? Like we go to Google and we type in our symptoms for medical things all the time. But when it comes to like our emotions, sometimes we feel like it's us being too weak, or we don't like being vulnerable. So, okay, you don't want to be weak or vulnerable as if it's just going to go away. It's still going to be there. You can try to hide, but you can never run away from your mind. If you start to really think about it logically, you can't run away from your mind. Your mind is a part of you. Your experiences are a part of you. And the only thing that ends up happening is that the pain just keeps attaching to past pain. And then you're just walking around full of like pain. And you end up adjusting your life to the pain. And it becomes a uncomfortable, comfortable place to be in. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to live in that way. We only have one life. And so I think it's important for us to walk in our purpose and to have some form of peace. So we'll be back tomorrow. We are going to be talking to somebody else. Tomorrow's Friday. And then next Friday, we won't have a show because we will be, I'll be on Zoom. It's going to be at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you want to be a part of it, all you got to do is just sign up on Eventbrite and you will get the link so that we can kind of celebrate. I appreciate you too. So that we can celebrate. So love you guys. See you mañana. Follow me on all social media platforms, Celeste the Therapist. And anything else I wanted to say? Yeah, follow me on all social media platforms. And if you have a show idea or want to be on the show, email me or slide up in my DM and let me know. All right, I'll talk to you later.
Every laugh, every smile, every hug, every kiss, every touch, every person in my life that I care about and love. But wait, maybe I'm getting too emotional. That's exactly what they say you ain't supposed to do. Suppress your feelings, never talk about your pain. Can't appreciate the sun without acknowledging it rains, right? That's right. So this a moment of clarity. And make sure you always protect your energy. You stay focused and your life gon' be lit. And you are now rocking with Celeste the Therapist. Let's go.